Chicago, what is about to happen to this franchise might be the moment everyone in this city has been waiting on for years. Everything points to MAXX Crosby, one of the nastiest pass rushers in the entire NFL, being one step away from rocking navy and orange, and the details of how the deal with Baltimore fell apart are going to leave everyone speechless. But that is not all. There is a silent crisis brewing on the offensive line that is directly threatening Caleb Williams. And the Bears already made a move nobody saw coming, and down at Kansas State, Poles may have found the one who could be the brain of this offense for the next decade, but there is one obstacle that could blow everything up. Do not go anywhere. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and stay locked in until the end because Chi-Town is about to explode. News 1, MAXX Crosby. What is going down with MAXX Crosby and the Chicago Bears is exactly the kind of news that makes anyone jump off the couch at 11 at night. Wake up the whole house and scream that something huge is finally about to go down in Chi-Town. Listen up, because this is not some random social media rumor. This is not cheap barbershop speculation. This is a real situation taking shape right in front of everyone's eyes, and the Bears are standing dead center in the middle of it. Let's start from the top because the context here is absolutely crucial. The Las Vegas Raiders have MAXX Crosby, one of the most dominant, complete edge rushers of the modern NFL. The motor never shuts off, the ability to wreck a quarterback snap after snap, the knack for reading the opposing tackle, and the nonstop production put this player in a completely different category from most pass rushers on the planet. The Raiders had a trade lined up with the Baltimore Ravens, and everybody thought that was the end of the Crosby saga. The Ravens were going to land him. The situation seemed wrapped up, and Chicago would have to roll with what was already in the building. But let's be real, when in the football world do things actually play out exactly how everyone expects? Never. And this time was no different. Baltimore walked away from the deal after Crosby's physical. They backed out of the trade, and all of a sudden the door that looked locked and bolted swung wide open again. And guess who is standing right on the other side of that door? The Chicago Bears. According to a breakdown from Bleacher Report, Chicago is one of the most logical landing spots if Crosby ends up back on the trade block. And that breakdown is not off, not even a little bit. Think this through. The Bears wrapped up the 2025 season with 11 wins and 6 losses. They won the NFC North. They made it to the divisional round before falling in overtime to the Los Angeles Rams. That is real progress. That is a franchise on the rise, building something genuinely exciting. And Ben Johnson, in the first year wearing the headset as head coach, proved this squad can line up and go toe-to-toe with the heavyweights. But there is one thing that was absolutely obvious when that season ended. The defensive line needs more juice, more pressure, more fear. The Bears finished the year with only 35 sacks, tied for the 7th lowest mark in the entire league. 35 sacks. Montez Sweat was basically the only one generating consistent pressure, the only defender hitting double digits in sacks. Gervon Dexter was the only other player to even reach 5. That is it. That is not nearly enough to win playoff games in January against the top offenses in football. Here's the part that has everyone in Chicago losing it. Ryan Poles, the Bears general manager, is sitting on one of the richest, most attractive draft pick portfolios in the NFL right now. Chicago has 3 picks inside the top 60 in the 2026 draft, plus 5 total picks in the first 4 rounds. That is real trade capital. That is legit negotiating power. For a team still tearing it all down and starting over, those picks are untouchable. But for a team trying to make that final leap into the Super Bowl conversation, those picks turn into bargaining chips. Poles has to sit down and ask one very simple but very tough question. What matters more, a bunch of draft picks that might never turn into impact players, or MAXX Crosby, a 28-year-old edge rusher who has already shown that this game can be dominated at the highest level? Picture this for a second. MAXX Crosby lining up across from Montez Sweat on the same Chicago defensive front. Because that image is crystal clear, and it looks like every quarterback in the NFC North would be having nightmares all week long. Aaron Jones trying to run for Minnesota, Jordan Love trying to bail out of the pocket in Green Bay, Jared Goff hunting for a check down in Detroit, all of them having to deal with 2 of the best pass rushers in the conference coming after them on the same snap. The defensive tradition in Chicago is not some happy accident. Monsters of the Midway is not just a catchy nickname. This city has produced and worshipped great defenses for decades. From those legendary 85 squads rolling through Brian Urlacher, Julius Peppers, Lance Briggs, Tommy Harris, all the way to Khalil Mack wrecking games in navy and orange, Chicago people understand defense. Chicago people know that championships are won when the quarterback gets hunted. And MAXX Crosby is exactly the kind of player who can bring that identity roaring back instantly. Now, it is only fair to be honest about the hurdles. Crosby is on a big-time contract. The Raiders wanted serious compensation before, and that part has not changed. The physical that made Baltimore walk away is a yellow flag that cannot just be brushed aside. Poles needs to do the homework, dig into the medicals with the Bears staff, and make a smart decision, not just a hype-driven one. But if the medicals check out and the contract numbers line up, Poles should be on the phone with Las Vegas right now, because the Bears are not a rebuilding outfit anymore. This is not a tear-down project. They are division champs. They are a playoff team, and the fan base deserves to see this organization operate like what it really is, a legit contender with real-deal Super Bowl ambitions. Soldier Field deserves to roar for a pass rusher who can flip a game by alone. Chicago deserves that kind of player, and Caleb Williams deserves a defense that takes some of the weight off those shoulders by winning games with pure dominance. If that shakes things up, wait to hear what is next, because the Bears are also beefing up protection for the franchise quarterback in a very serious way. News 2, Jedric Wills Jr. When a team has a top-tier quarterback, when that quarterback is the future of the franchise, when the whole game plan revolves around the ability to read coverages, create plays, and grow into the leader of the locker room, the first thing that organization has to lock in is making sure that quarterback shows up to training camp upright. Not banged up, not taking useless punishment, and fully trusting the people standing in front. That is exactly what the Chicago Bears just did by bringing in Jedric Wills Jr. This move has not gotten even half the shine it deserves. Everyone is chatting about big-name free agents, blockbuster trades, splashy headlines. Meanwhile, Ryan Poles went shopping and came home with an offensive tackle who has 5 years of NFL experience, 57 starts in 58 games, and a track record of protecting quarterbacks on one of the tougher offensive lines in the AFC over half a decade. We are talking about Jedric Wills Jr., who signed a one-year deal with the Bears. And anyone has to look at what this lineman has already put on tape to really understand what Chicago is adding to the offensive line room. Wills came into the league in 2020 as a first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns. As a rookie, there was a spot on the Pro Football Writers all-rookie team, starting 15 games at left tackle, the most demanding position on the entire offensive line. That season, the Browns made the playoffs and won in the AFC wildcard round. That offensive line was a huge part of the run, putting up an average of 148.4 rushing yards per game, third best in the whole league. Wills was right in the middle of that. In 2021, Wills was blocking for a Cleveland offense that tied for the league lead at 5.09 yards per carry. In 2022, the same lineman helped pave the way for Nick Chubb to rack up 1,525 rushing yards, a personal best. In 2023, in 8 starts, Wills was part of a Browns team that picked up 5 wins on the way to securing another playoff spot. Does that sound like someone who cannot handle the job? That does not add up. This looks like a tackle with real experience in big-time spots, who can protect the blind side of a premier quarterback and who has the feel to mesh into a constantly evolving offensive line scheme. Here's where it gets especially interesting for Chicago's situation. Left tackle in Chicago is in the middle of a serious transition. Ozzy Trapilo went down late in the 2025 season with a major injury and is still working his way back. Braxton Jones was brought back and is in that mix too. There is real uncertainty around who is going to be the one protecting Caleb Williams' left side when the 2026 season kicks off. Wills has extensive experience at that exact spot. Left tackle has been the primary position throughout most of that Cleveland stint. This signing is not just about emergency depth. This signing opens the door to real competition at a spot where competition is absolutely needed. That alone says a lot about how Poles and Ben Johnson are building this roster. They are not just assuming everything will magically work out. They are not sitting around crossing fingers and hoping last year's injuries will not linger. They are being proactive. They are adding options, building competition, and making sure Caleb Williams has more than one answer when this team takes the field. And speaking of Caleb Williams, this all revolves around that quarterback. A quarterback with that level of talent needs time, needs those 2 or 3 seconds that separate a touchdown strike from a strip sack at the goal line. Every lineman who protects Caleb Williams is a direct investment in the future of this franchise. And Wills, with all the left tackle experience in that bag, is exactly the kind of investment that makes sense for a team aiming at a Super Bowl run. Green Bay has understood for decades that protecting the quarterback is priority number one. Detroit has poured a ton of resources into the offensive line. Minnesota has done it too, and the Bears, under Poles and Johnson, are proving they also get that basic truth. Bear down, Chicago. This offensive line is growing up. This offensive line is getting deeper, more experienced, more capable of getting it done when the lights are the brightest. And when Jedric Wills Jr. is fighting for a spot in that starting five, it sends a clear message to the rest of the North. The Bears have zero interest in taking a step back. If that has everyone fired up, stick around, because there is still one more story that speaks directly to the future of this same offensive line. And what the Bears are quietly doing might be the smartest move of this entire build. News 3, Sam Hecht. There is something the sharpest general managers in the NFL do when nobody is paying attention. While all the cameras are locked on the big-name free agents, while everybody else is debating huge trades and monster contracts, the smartest organizations are on college campuses at pro days, breaking down the young players who are going to shape the future of the franchise over the next 5 to 7 years. That is exactly what the Chicago Bears are doing right now, and the story coming out of what they saw at Kansas State is one every Navy and Orange fan needs to keep on the radar. First, the context, because without it, the urgency of this move does not fully hit. At the end of the 2025 season, the Bears lost one of the most important pieces of their offensive line in a way absolutely nobody saw coming. Drew Dalman, the veteran Pro Bowl center who had been the brain of that unit, the one reading defenses, making protection calls, and keeping everyone on the same page, announced retirement from the NFL with 2 years still left on a $42 million deal. Done. No real advance warning, no clear replacement plan in place. That decision was one of the hardest hits to this organization's long-term blueprint in this whole transition phase. Dalman was not just a blocker. This was the operator of the system. According to ESPN, there was a finish with the 8th best pass block win rate in the league at 96% and the second highest number of pass block wins at 406 during the 2025 regular season. That level of performance is not replaced by a quick free agency signing. That type of player requires time to develop, time to learn the scheme, and time to grow into the leadership that position demands. Short term, the Bears already made a move. They flipped a 5th rounder in the 2027 draft to the New England Patriots in exchange for veteran center Garrett Bradbury, a former college teammate of left guard Joe Thuney. That is a bridge solution, a smart play for right now, but Poles and Ben Johnson know well enough that they need a long-term answer too. That answer might come in the 2026 draft. According to reporter Brad Biggs of the Chicago Tribune, the Bears sent a big group, scouts and coaches, together to the Kansas State Pro Day on March 10th with a specific focus on center Sam Hecht. And this prospect is turning heads everywhere. Pro Football Focus has Hecht listed as the #1 center in the entire 2026 class. ESPN's Matt Miller also has this player as the top center of the group. Field Yates from the same network has Hecht slotted second. Now for the numbers, because numbers do not lie, and these numbers are flat out ridiculous. In the 2025 senior season at Kansas State, Hecht started the last 25 games of the college career on 392 pass blocking snaps. There were 0 sacks allowed, 0 quarterback hits allowed, and only 7 pressures. 0 penalties across 759 total snaps that season. That is total domination at the college level, and the Senior Bowl performance, putting together legit athleticism and natural instincts for the interior. push the stock even higher on boards across the league. So here's the question. When was the last time the Bears had a truly dominant center, someone who could lead that line, get protections right in the passing game, and at the same time be a reliable run blocker in Ben Johnson's zone scheme? Because a zone scheme needs a center who can move, anticipate, and make decisions in a split second. Everything about Hecht's profile sounds exactly like that kind of player. Here's the part that looks strategically brilliant from Chicago's perspective. The Bears have 2 second-round picks in the 2026 draft, slots 57 and 60, plus a third-rounder at 89. That gives Chicago 3 real shots at drafting Hecht. If they decide this is the long-term answer at any one of those 3 spots, grabbing Hecht would be perfectly reasonable. Of course, the competition is real. The Bears are not the only ones watching Hecht. When a prospect climbs that fast on boards at places like PFF and ESPN, a bunch of front offices start circling. Quality centers are in high demand, and teams trying to rebuild that position will all be in the same race. But Chicago did not just send one scout. They rolled deep. Scouts and coaches went to Manhattan, Kansas. That is not some casual stop on the way to somewhere else. That is a sign of genuine, serious interest. That is a team doing the homework, being proactive, and understanding that the long game matters just as much as the immediate future. Now zoom out and look at the bigger picture on this Bears offensive line build. Joe Thuney is the anchor at left guard. Jonah Jackson is locked in at right guard. Left tackle is still in flux. Jedric Wills Jr. is now in the mix fighting for that spot. Garrett Bradbury is in as the bridge at center. And if the Bears add Sam Hecht in the draft, suddenly there is a young center with Pro Bowl upside who can learn the system for a year while Bradbury holds down the starting job. That is smart construction. That is how teams build to win over the long haul, not just for 1 year, not just for a short playoff run, but consistently over time. The Packers have done it on the offensive line for decades. The Rams built that way before the Super Bowl win. The Eagles built one of the best offensive lines of the modern era with that exact philosophy, and now the Bears are walking that same path. If Hecht is on the board at one of those second-round slots on draft day, and if the medical exams check out, and if Ben Johnson signs off that the skill set fits the zone scheme, Poles needs to turn that card in without thinking twice. An elite center does more than protect a quarterback. An elite center lifts everyone around, lifts the guards, lifts the tackles, makes the entire system run smoother and more efficiently. This is the kind of story that looks small if the context gets ignored. But once the full picture is clear, once it is tied to the long-term future of Caleb Williams, to Ben Johnson's vision, and to where this franchise wants to be, it is easy to see how this could become one of the biggest moves of this whole build. Duh Bears, Chicago is not just staring at 2026. Chicago is trying to set up a run to own the NFC North for the next 5 years, and that should light up the heart of every fan who bleeds navy blue and orange. Before wrapping this up, stay here one more minute because these 3 stories have massive implications for the future of this franchise, and there is real interest in hearing what everyone thinks about all of it. First, the one that has all the nerves buzzing, MAXX Crosby. The chance that this elite edge rusher lands in Chicago is real, it is tangible, and it could flip the defensive identity of this team overnight. Poles has to make that call, but this is where you come in. Drop a comment right now on this story. Should the Chicago Bears give up draft capital to bring in MAXX Crosby, or is that too much risk for a team that is still mid-build? That is the million-dollar question, and those answers need to be heard. Second, Jedric Wills Jr., a tackle with legit experience, a real track record, stepping into battle for the left tackle job in a situation that is still not totally settled. Straight-up question, do you think Wills can win that competition and become Caleb Williams' full-time blindside protector in the 2026 season? Hit the comments. The opinion of this community matters. Third, the quiet move that might be the biggest one of all, Sam Hecht. The Bears sent a huge group to Kansas State to see this player up close. The top center in the draft, according to many of the best analysts in the game. Should the Bears use one of those second-round picks to lock in the heir to Drew Dahlman? Because center needs a long-term answer, and the 2026 draft might be the shot. Drop in the comments which center you would most like to see rocking navy and orange this coming September. Now, this is straight from the heart. This community being built here is not just some news channel. This is a family of Chicago Bears fans who live, breathe, and feel navy blue and orange at the same intensity. Every time someone comments, every time there is a debate, every time this franchise is defended with facts and passion, this community gets stronger and more valuable for everyone. If there has not been a subscription yet, this is the time. Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so nothing is missed when another Bears bombshell drops, because what is coming in the next few days is going to be even bigger. Free agency is in full swing, the draft is coming fast, and this franchise is staring at decisions that will decide whether 2026 is the year Chicago finally makes that last jump toward the Super Bowl. Bear down, Chicago. See everyone in the next video. Da Bears.